Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the LeaderSpeak Conclave, and thank you for joining us this evening. We also extend a warm welcome to all our colleagues who have joined us through the live webcast from other locations all across the country. CrossSynergy is about connecting, and in a group as large as ours, the opportunity of knowing people and of learning from one another is immense. So today's event is our first attempt towards that. The topic of our LeaderSpeak session this evening is evolution of leadership as organizations evolve. It is predominantly about leadership during change management, which is so relevant to our businesses and our group at the present juncture. But before that, to unveil the CrossSynergy logo and to give you more details on what CrossSynergy is all about, may I please invite Mr. Sunil Bhandari.
Hi everybody. It's really exciting to welcome you all in today's LeaderSpeak Conclave. To get a heavyweight panel of this kind promises a lot of excitement ahead. And a topic on change management is particularly relevant. So we have three of the top CEOs of India giving the industry perspective, a renowned academician to give an academic perspective, and an extremely senior person from the press world to rubbish all that they say. But on a more serious note, we would like to thank you all from the bottom of our hearts, Professor Dholakia and Mohit Hira, who have traveled all the way from Delhi for this. Kaushik, Anuruddha, Mohit, it's a privilege to have all of you here. This conclave is only the first in what we hope will be a slew of events under CrossSynergies. Someone said a long time ago that only through our connectedness to others can we really know and enhance the self. That would almost be the mantra of CrossSynergies. Let me explain in very short what the plans for CrossSynergies are. The first initiative is LeaderSpeak, what we have today, plus many more variations in the form of one-to-one dialogues, debates, and discussion sessions like today's. We are trying to capture the knowledge, experience, and thoughts of all leaders. And we are reaching all across the country to all our colleagues. So probably for the first time, we are doing a sophisticated webcast, which is available on laptop, iPads, smartphones. Plus, this will be put up on a CrossSynergy platform, which is going to come up soon. And to complete the 360-degree level of involvement, we have Professor Tirthankar Nag and his IMI team, who are going to do a paper based on today's discussions. So we will have the essence of the themes emerging from all such sessions captured for posterity. The second initiative is of functional conclaves, where we will create forums for professionals of the same function to get together, get to know each other and exchange notes about what is happening in each other's area of work. The first one will be for CIOs and later for CFOs of the companies and so on and so forth. The third big thing which we are launching is the knowledge portal. If things go well, we should be crystallizing a way forward next month with one of our companies. If successful, we'll recommend it for other companies progressively. The whole purpose here is to capture and integrate the knowledge which is continuously being created so it is available to all and on which we can further build upon. First Source has already started a knowledge portal, and we will be leaning upon their learning on this. As the entire effort in these initiatives is to get people to start talking to each other, learn from each other, and share their experiences, we have also started hobby hubs in Kolkata just now. The first one, the Film Hub, is already 4 months old and has had a lot of exciting viewing of films and intense discussion with film lovers across companies. The next one up is the Photography Hub and a reading club, Hopefully, as things span out, we will have more hobby bugs being created so that everybody across the group can meet up and have fun on the basis of something which they love doing. At the bottom of it all is one simple desire, which is getting people in the group to start sharing of their knowledge and to celebrate what they love, and above all, to get to know each other. So what I would urge you to do is to not leave these premises without exchanging at least one visiting card with someone you don't know. It would be a very small beginning, but I think a significant one. Well, we hope you enjoy the session today. And everybody who's seeing the webcast, we really hope you have a seamless experience. The test whether the transmission is good is as follows. If I'm looking good, the transmission is bad. We would love to have ideas from you, so please connect with us and let us know your thoughts on all these plans. Most importantly, we would like to thank our chairman, Mr. Sanjeev Goenka, for the incredible encouragement, ideation, and freedom he gives all of us to do new things and take risks. Is the only way to grow, prosper, and do all things exciting. As someone said, no life is a waste. The only time we waste is the time we spend thinking we are alone. Do have a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari, for the overview on CrossSynergy. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are seated in the auditorium, you would find pen and paper kept on your seats. This is for you to note down any questions that you might have for the panelists, which you may pass on to the panel through our volunteers during the Q&A session. In case you would like to ask questions directly, we'll have microphones available for you. For those of you who are viewing the live webcast, in case you would like to ask any questions, you may visit the YouTube link given on the IMI page and post on the comment box. Without much ado, I would now like to introduce our 4 panelists and the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mr. Aniruddha Basu, Professor Bakul Dholakia, Mr. Kaushik Roy, Mr. Mohit Hira, and Mr. Mohit Kampani.
Okay, that was quite a start, and I think it's put all of us under a certain level of pressure out here right now. But thank you for having us all, and I think I can say this safely on behalf of all the panelists. It's great having all of you here and across the country, wherever you are. I actually want to get started with, and there's a set of notes. There's some notes that we've exchanged amongst ourselves. So I just want to get started in a certain sequence, although we're having the three of you sandwiched between the two Mohits, but we'll go along in a certain sequence, starting with Mr. Kampani. And the one thing I think that kind of unites all five of us here is that in the recent past, all five of us have stepped into a role which we inherited. And when you walk into a role, there are some things that you know and there are some things that you don't, and there are some things that you discover as you go along. So I just want to get started with that as the opening thing to get into our subject today. So Mr. Kampani, starting with you, and the question is the same to everybody. How would you describe your inheritance in a word or in a sentence?
A bag full of tricks.
Okay, a bag full of tricks.
Yeah. So something new opened up every day after I took on my assignment. Some of them not so pleasant, but mostly pleasant, I'll have to say, because I've survived the role so far.
All right. Mr. Basu?
For me, it would be high standard of performance and values, which I am compelled to try to live up to.
Okay. Mr. Roy?
What I inherited, right? It was exciting, a lot of challenges, but I guess more the merrier, because as you solve these challenges and overcome these challenges, that sense of satisfaction also comes along with that. So that's how I look at it.
Dr. Dholakia?
As far as I am concerned, it's an educational institution, and therefore what I inherited were massive aspirations and expectations of all the stakeholders, particularly the students, and lot of issues with regard to delivering on what we are capable of or what our promises are, and systems and processes not geared up to that kind of delivery.
Right. So I want to come back to the bag full of tricks, and I'm sure there was some things that took you by surprise, and you suddenly had to deal with many more things than you thought. So how did you actually prioritize in the early days as to what you should deal with first, and what became, let's say, the number one or number two priority to get out of the way and then focus on the future?
For me, Mohit, and I think it will be similar for a lot of people who get into roles like this. I think the two things you've got to learn to start doing is, first is stop doing everything yourself. And, I can't underscore that point enough. And I think the first thing I consciously try to do is let others do their job without me interfering. And for somebody who's been in a line function their entire career, and then you move into a role like this, it's obviously a challenge to make that jump. And I think the second thing related to this is you've really got to start playing more and more the role of a coach, because this job is about adding value to people. I was spending I spent an evening with some people who've joined the group recently in induction program, and I was discussing this with them. And I said, look, in my role, and all of you who are ascribed to go to leadership positions, it's no longer how successful you are, but it's about, can you make people working around you successful? Because that's what leadership is now. It was very different in the beginning of your career, in the middle of your career, where it was about making your territory, your department successful, and there was almost a healthy and sometimes unhealthy competition to do that. But this role is about making people around you successful, and the moment you learn to do that, I think you don't need to worry anymore.
Okay, so I think I'm taking away two things from what you just said. One is about becoming a coach, and a step before that is when you actually realize that you need to stop doing things yourself and guide, empower others to move in a certain direction. And I noticed, Dr. Dholakia, that your quote actually said this about giving direction, and you've seen leaders, you've helped create many leaders over the last few decades. So how do you think somebody can evolve and reach that point where he stops doing things himself and steps back, and although your hands are itching to get down and do it yourself, to say no, let me hold back and let me coach somebody else to do it? How do you think that happens?
Now, I think every leader has to resist the temptation of doing things himself or herself. I mean, that is that's simply not done, because then the people working with you would never become fully accountable. See, if you do everything yourself, then the responsibility for the outcome also you have to take. A much better situation is where you delegate, but while you delegate, you don't mind holding hand. Capacity building is something, and since I come from an educational institution background, the capacity building, particularly of those who are in administration, is a very, very significant task, because this country is not given to producing good academic support staff, because our systems are not of that, and therefore there is a lot of requirement for capacity building on their part. Secondly, if you have a vision and you want the organizational performance to be directed in that direction, then you must ensure that everybody shares the vision. Now, everybody will share the vision. The chances are much better if everybody also sees a role in fulfilling that vision. That what is it that I would do? The organizational commitment improves if the vision is shared and the role of different players is very clearly defined in how that vision is to be achieved. And I think that is what the leaders have to essentially do.
Mr. Basu?
See, for me, it was a different kind of a thing altogether, because I was purely a CSC homegrown stock, and having spent around say 28 years in distribution, then I took over the current assignment. So it was very difficult to operate in a hands-off mode. And I still recall that day when Mr. Agarwal has warned me, Aniruddha, don't ever try to micromanage distribution. That is one thing you must keep in mind. But joke apart, when I took over, then that time CSC was at the top of its all operational parameters. And the situation was that the sustenance of all operational excellence itself was a challenge. So I got a big picture, and our chairman has also set a vision that we have to transform CSC as a center of excellence in all its activity, be it in generation, distribution and HR practice. And this was the time around when CSC was facing competition, and being in the business for more than 116 years, to face competition, it is not a very easy task. We have seen because of this globalization, there is a frictionless flow of technology, service and capital, and we have also seen that many companies from that level collapsed from iconic to irrelevant, because when that kind of performance the company achieves, a kind of complacency sets in, and that is the time when fault kicks in the company. So we have to be very careful about that. We thought that we will build up the capability of the organization, keeping the core value, which is basically credibility, respect, pride and fairness and our teamwork. So that is how we are moving, and I personally took this as a challenge to create excitement across the organization, because it is a huge organization, 10,000 people working here. Many people have a feeling of being left under the pile of this big organization. So as a leadership team, we need to energize the entire team. That was the biggest challenge before us.
So, okay, Kaushik, if you can just come back to what Dr. Dholakia was saying about shared vision, and if you can, take that thread a little forward.
See, I'll talk about Philips Carbon Black specific now. When I joined, it was a situation that we were actually deep into red in terms of financial performance. So therefore, there's an immediate need to address that issue. So we sat together as a senior team, or we call it our management committee. So we tried to prioritize things, and we realized that it is important that the financial part is required to be taken care of on priority. So certain actions were taken immediately, more internal driven rather than depending on the external world. Efficiency improvement in every area across all functions, cost reduction, massive way, etc., etc. Parallelly, we brought in focus in other areas like, say, customer centricity. We brought in a lot of focus in that area to ensure that we serve our customer properly. Similarly, we also looked at the people-related matters here, which was the topic we were talking about a little while back. And what we realized that the team in PCBL were more used to directive leadership. Okay, they are used to directive leadership rather than participative leadership. So they are used to have direction from the leader. This is how it has to be done, and it is expected that all the team members will follow that. So we thought it would be easy to possibly transit from directive leadership to participative leadership. So initially we decided to let go, which just now Mohit was talking about, that it is not easy, but we decided to go ahead to let go, but then quickly we realized that possibly the organization is not fully ready for a participative leadership straight away. So then we possibly stepped back at that point of time and had some brainstorming among ourselves, and then we realized, particularly for me, it was critical that I have to do situational leadership. So in some cases, I played the role of directive leadership, where I'll give a direction straight away to the team that this is how it has to be done. I don't care about anything else. And also there were times I allowed participative leadership. So it is a mix of both, and that's how we started actually. And the other thing which Dr. Dholakia talked about just now about sharing the vision, we have focused a lot on that. Talking about it openly, communicating openly through different forums, communications. So lots of communications, not only in head office, but across the whole organization today is going on. So the connect between the top team and the rest of the organization is high, and therefore we all act together as one single team, Team PCBL. So that is the culture we are trying to bring in now. I'll say that to some extent we have moved in this direction, but long way to go still.
Okay. So Mohit, if you look at communicating across an organization, and when I look at, let's say, Spencer's, it's unique because you're in many places, you've got teams that are not sitting in one place necessarily. So how easy or how difficult has it been to communicate and to get alignment across?
Extremely difficult. One of the lessons which I've learned in the last 2 years is, and very specifically when you are doing big changes in an organization, and they can be of many natures, you can never communicate enough. And communication has a funny, content has a funny way of losing itself when it goes through various filters. And it's not because of bad intention. It's a tough thing to do. And obviously for an organization which is multi-geography, we are in 34 cities and spread across, it's a little bit more challenging. We do a couple of things which work for us. We regularly do town hall meetings. We electronically try and publish on a monthly basis what's happening in the organization. So those forums, of course, help. And let me talk a little bit about the town hall meetings. When they started about 4.5 years back, most of the questions which came to us were about, will this organization survive? Plain and simple. We don't see a future. Those were days when we were hemorrhaging cash, pretty much like the .coms are doing these days. Now, over the years, there's been a change in, so it's almost like Maslow's need hierarchy. My basic needs are addressed. Yes, I think this company is there for the future, it'll survive. So now there are more questions about me, myself, and my needs around my environment. And we welcome those questions, and we welcome those queries which come to us. And some of them will be, sitting on this stage, we may even think of them as almost funny, things around transportation, office infrastructure, stuff like that. But that's what's important to the staff, and it's important to hear that. So to answer your question, one can never do enough, and I think we must constantly keep finding newer and newer ways to communicate. Some good old traditional ways are, so one of the things we tell the executive committee is when you travel to an outside location, spend time with the local team, in the evening, speak to them. We are a people business. We have 5,800 employees, but we can never do enough.
Right. Okay, I'm going to shift gears slightly and taking off again from something you said a little while ago about customer centricity and the fact that a few years ago you were hemorrhaging, bleeding cash like let's say the .coms are doing today. Now, one of the other things that .coms and the internet and digital has done is that it's changed the game for, I think, every business that we are in today. And I want to start with you. So how have you seen the customer change? How have you seen your category change in the last few years?
See, so far the customer's profile are concerned, more or less it is same, though with time their preference, their lifestyle are changing, but since we are the sole license supply provider to the city of Calcutta and Howrah, so that way our customer base is not changing. And on an average, we are adding around say 1 lakh customers to our command area. Currently, we have got 29 lakhs of customers. But when you talk about customer centricity, a lot of things are being initiated from CSC because earlier when I joined, then we used to think that CS is a monopoly. It will continue to be a monopoly, and we used to operate from a higher pedestal. And I grew in a situation where I am used to consumers calling us as SARS. That was a kind of a mindset. And then with competition coming in, gradually we are moving towards service industry.
Right.
Initially, I can recall that in CSC, it was basically engineer-based organization. The engineers used to take pride in their domain knowledge, and this shifting is not so easy, and there calls for huge mindset. So customer, everything, whatever we are doing, centrally around customer. Here the communication has a major role to play. We are communicating to our customers in a different format. Digital technology has taken a huge role here. When we talk about customer service, say firstly, since you have started with digital technology, so let me first brief some of our initiatives, because this is so close to our heart. If I went on narrating all those things, so I will take hours. So let us limit our discussion to some specific measures. Say new connection. We are giving new connection, and for that new connection a customer can apply through the digital platform, and at the click of a button he can he or she can fill up his form and other compliances. See, similarly, chat, social media network, it is also gaining momentum, and all our senior leadership team, including me, participate in the chat session with the customers. They can log any complaints in the social media, Twitter. Our website also have been thoroughly overhauled. to provide best-in-class service to our customers, and for that we had selected 17 best-in-class websites across the industry. So it is a very challenging and very exciting engagement in terms of customer service, and hard value wise to create that kind of infrastructure. There will be no interruption, and Calcutta, all of us know that there is no load shedding in the city, and even if there is a 30 minutes power cut, we are placing small generators into service. That is the kind of service we are committed to provide to our customers, so that true emotional connect happens between customer and the organization.
And this is very different from what it was, let's say 5 years, 10 years ago.
And think of the proactiveness from the CSC's point of view, because the true competition has not yet been taken place. So these are all proactive initiatives, and we are doing it on a purpose to create excitement across the organization, the vibration, so that we ourselves are setting some benchmark.
Sure. Got it. Dr. Dholak, if I look at the business of education, and it is a business because I have to fill capacity, I have to get faculty, I have to get the students placed. So there are many aspects that will define success, but it's also a unique business because you have a customer who is the student, but you have his or her parent who is a very critical decision maker. And in the last few years we have seen how youngsters have come into their own and are taking a lot of decisions independently. Have you seen any significant shift that's happened as far as A, decision making is concerned, B, the fact that this category has become extremely competitive because there are many business schools that have mushroomed, there are many alternate careers that have come up. So how does IMI deal with it?
Well, IMI deals with it in multiple ways, but let me tell you that there is hardly any business which is not affected by continuously changing environment. Every business
Sure.
is affected, and at some point of time it would happen to education the moment you decide that you will allow private investment in the education field. The major difference is that while the industry and the corporate sector and manufacturing services have all been largely deregulated and lot of reforms have happened, education is one sector where reform is still waiting to happen.
True.
So therefore you have that problem, but you are right, the going by the demographics and the large numbers, the country has, especially as far as business schools are concerned, gone for expansion which is probably not warranted by the actual forces of demand. And so if you have the AICT licensing out 4,000 institutions to provide postgraduate education in business management, so you have huge capacity.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why the quality has started commanding premium. Now, as they say, in any market there is always enough demand in the premium segment.
Yes.
And so the challenge is to upgrade the quality of business education to call yourself truly a premier institution. And that is why not merely branding, but communication about the kind of brand that you are has become very important, very crucial.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that if you are honest about communicating your strengths and you are serious about identifying your weakness, then it is possible for you to continuously strive and upgrade yourself. And I think the leader of an educational institution has to precisely do that. Not allow complacency to set in the internal system, faculty and staff, and at the same time continuously address the genuine needs of the students and communicate with the larger fraternity. Though I believe that in the changing times, the decision to pursue which discipline and within that discipline which institution these days is taken more by the youngsters and not so much by their parents.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a good change.
Yeah.
It's a good change because we need students who really want business education, and they are there not because their parents ask them to be there, but they are there because they are passionate about being managers.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's a positive change, and it's a good thing. Only thing is, it places
More pressure.
onus on the business schools to deliver, which is always a good thing.
Kaushik, how have you seen the customer change in your business?
I was not so lucky, but I have heard that there was a time in Philips Carbon Black when customers used to line up to request for carbon black, and it used to be rationed at that point of time, and we used to say, okay, you want 10 tons, I'll give you only 5 tons, and you jolly well pay the money today and come back tomorrow. I wish we were in that era, but unfortunately by the time he came, those good times had gone. So when I came in, it was rather other way around. We are standing in the queue at the customer's place requesting for order. And very quickly we realized in today's context, a few basic things are considered to be given, not even open for discussion. And one of that very basic thing is your quality. Quality is something you don't even discuss with your customers, it is considered to be given. What are the other things customers look at? They look at service. While Mohit talked about service, which is very critical for retail business, but it is equally critical today for manufacturing business industry like us, where our customer expects that at their beck and call, the material should be available at their end. There should not be any waiting time, there should not be any inventory at their end, etc., etc. So service level, particularly in terms of logistics, communicating them from time to time, what is the status, are you delivering on time, etc., etc. So that service level expectation was very, very high. And third and quite obvious one is that you need to be absolutely competitive. And today we are in a situation and generation that in our business, China is the largest producer in the world with almost 40% of the global capacity with China. 40%, you have heard rightly. So it is 40%. So therefore, you can imagine the kind of force in terms of competitiveness we face every time within India and outside India. Now, earlier days, Philips Carbon Black was primarily focused within India. It was more domestic-centric organization. Primary market was domestic, and after selling to the domestic customers, if you have something extra, some extra volume available, you go and sell outside of India. But as we have grown, we also realize that it is important for us to develop global market for ourselves. Otherwise, it will be difficult at any point of time in case there is a shock in the Indian economy at some point of time and you are only married to the Indian customers. It will be difficult to manage that shock. So therefore, it is important to spread our wings beyond India. So this is the business transformation what we are going through right now. And when we talk about customers, whether it is within India or outside India, we have big global customers. As most of you might be aware of, carbon black is majorly used, 70% of the product goes into tire manufacturing. And you know all the big names of tire in India, whether it is C8 or JK or Apollo or MRF. And then outside India, you have got the Bristones and the Goodyear, and even they are there in India as well today, Michelin. So the expectation level is extremely high. And they also don't just look at the service factors what I just mentioned, they also look at beyond that, which is more of a collaborative nature of partnership with them. So we do not act anymore just as a supplier. We have taken it to the next higher level, or even in the process of taking it to the next higher level, where we work together. For example, if a tire company wants to develop a tire which will run 100,000 kilometers, say 1 lakh kilometers, so long distance running, the life should be 1 lakh kilometers. So they need a specific type of carbon black possibly for that. So it is important that our technical team with the tire company's technical team work together to develop that kind of carbon black, and they are able to deliver that continuously without any failure. So the understanding has gone beyond just supplier and customer relationship, it is a business partnership relationship today. And we are trying to move in that direction. So that's what we mean by customer centricity, and as an organization today, this understanding is almost clear across the whole organization. Whether it is head office or it is at the plant, at every level, it is clear today This is what we are talking about when we talk about customer centricity.
Mohit, when it comes to the retail business, and you're across so many different locations, and each location has a very unique set of characteristics in terms of catchment area. Are you seeing that as one challenge in terms of dealing with different kinds of customers across cities or even within, let's say, an urban area? And have you seen a shift happening there? Number one. Number two, the challenge or the competition in your case is not just other physical stores, it's also e-commerce to some extent.
To a large extent. Okay, multiple questions. I think our biggest challenge is, and let me not use technical terms here, but our majority of our customers are slightly more affluent urban customers. 70% of our customers are ACCA, socioeconomic classification A, whereas about 9% of urban India is ACCA. So there is a very clear bias in adoption of more affluent customers for our kind of businesses. And for them, going to a retail store is like going to another service point. It's like going to a restaurant, checking in for a flight. Those are their paradigms for service. And yet, the people who front them in our stores are people who come from very different socio-economic backgrounds. And to compound the matter, they are usually from very, very nearby, because in our industry, you can't have people traveling 20, 30 kilometers to come to work. It's usually 3 to 5 kilometers. And partly because of compensation and other socio-economic factors. So our biggest challenge is to give these guys service relative to what they expect from the service industry, from people who are drawn from very, very close by to the stores, and who actually may never even see a regional office, corporate office, and all of that fancy stuff. You can get a manager from one of the institutes like IMI. You can train him in a corporate office, and you can mold him. How do you do that for staff which you are getting from the catchment area? And to make matters more complex, for our shoppers, they're getting more sophisticated in what they want from us. It's no longer enough to give good price and promotion. They also want fast checkouts. They want to find the products fast. They want free parking, have to have bathrooms. How do we take care of the babies, and on and on and on. Okay, and I think that's where our biggest opportunity is, because if you look at the bulk of retail in India and e-tail in India, it competes only on price. And even on e-tail, our thinking on retail is that e-tail is about convenience and limitless aisles. Sitting anywhere, you can shop and you have an unlimited catalog to shop from. But if you look at the bulk of Indian e-tail, it's competing on price. And for us, that's a huge opportunity, because you have customers who are coming to you anyway for part of their grocery needs, and hopefully you can go and say, come to us the other 70% of the time. By the way, the most loyal modern trade shopper in India only buys 30% of their grocery from modern trade. 70% buys from outside. So that's a huge opportunity, because that 70% he or she doesn't buy because they don't like you, but because you don't offer them convenience all the time. It's complex to sit in a car and go to a mall and paying parking fees and stuff like that. So my two reactions to you, Mohit, is that yes, the shopper is getting more sophisticated when they visit our stores, and we're learning new tricks to stay ahead of the curve there. We're doing a lot of things within the organization to be able to exceed their expectations. And on e-tail, I think it's a huge opportunity, especially for grocery. I'm sure 95% of this room shops regularly on e-commerce sites, or has ever shopped on an e-commerce site. It would have been close to 10% 2 years back. And I'm sure 90% of this room 2 years later would be shopping grocery on e-commerce. I think that's how the world will change. And I was in campus recruitments 3 years back, and that's typically the first question you get asked. Big basket, local bania, what about Spencer's retail? And I asked the room that how many, give me a number here. What percentage of your grocery in urban India will come from e-commerce 2 years, 3 years from today? So the bravest soul in the room said 15%. So, my answer is, would you rather do 85 or 15, or would you do both? And we want to do both. And we see an opportunity in both.
So, okay. So, do you see a different kind of a challenge happening when the e-commerce business grows for Spencer?
Yeah.
Where it's still a price-dominated game right now? Or do you see a shift happening there as well?
So, typically, the e-commerce shopper has some characteristics. The first one is they are time starved. They tend to be typically more affluent. Okay. So, actually they are the most profitable customers who are not coming to your store. And if you look at it from that paradigm and say, now what can I do to make sure they shop from me? Price will not figure in top 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Other things will figure in top 3. Okay. It could be free shipping. It could be shipping when they want it at their time of the day. It could be responding to an emergency. Yes. Why not SOS in grocery? So all other things will come in. So one is how you look at it, itself, and how you approach it. Okay.
Do you see a competitor coming into what is your home, your castle and everything, who could come in and then challenge the entire paradigm on which the business is built?
Yes, in fact, competition has already come. In a sense, all our high tension consumers with a load of say 1 megawatt an hour, they can select their own supply provider. So, and think of our situation being a typical utility whose tariff is fixed by the regulator, and we have got 29 lakhs of customers, but out of 29 lakhs, 85% of our customers account for only 43% of our revenue. So, in that situation, if this kind of cherry picking takes place, then what would happen to us? That is number one. And also, Electricity Act is being amended. It is proposed to be amended and the bill is being presented. So, and that calls for a competition at the retail level. So, it will be a totally different ball game altogether. So, only we feel from our experience that only prescription for our survival is the customer service. And we have to create aspiration, not only the service part, we have to create the aspiration, we have to deliver them the best service experience, and then only we can survive. And from the other side also we anticipate competition. Say we are a basically coal based utility, all of our power plants are coal based. So we may face challenge from the renewable segment also. So that is why, as a proactive measure, the entire organization is moving towards customer centricity to be prepared to take on any future challenge.
Dr. Dholakia, where do you see the challenge coming in the next 5 years for education? and just as, sorry, just as Mohit was mentioning e-commerce, e-learning in India is yet to kind of reach any scale as it has in some countries abroad. Do you see that happening? Do you see that shifting the game?
E-learning, so long as the purpose is knowledge, education, training, has a lot of future. But in terms of professional courses, e-learning and e-learning platforms in India can take off only when the recruiters begin to assign value to e-learning. Now, what has happened is that qualifications which are acquired through this platform are not viewed by the recruiters in the same manner in which the qualifications which are acquired in terms of an in-class experience based teaching. Now, so this has to change. Now, for that to change, the students who are availing the e-learning opportunities have to mentally believe that they are in a classroom, which is not what is happening.
That's right.
You know, at IIM Ahmedabad, I tied up with NIIT, to kind of create that particular platform.
Yes.
I had to make so many changes in terms of their existing model, and even after all that, when we tested out on a random basis, we realize that it's not producing the same quality that we would have wanted.
Because the rigor was not there in the
Yes,
student.
and so that is so the old fashioned methods still have value to deliver.
Yeah.
The best part is that the recruiters recognize that. But having said that, the biggest challenge is not the e-learning platforms that can come. Actually, as they say, when a new threat of competition emerges in many businesses, rather than competing, make them partners. And you know, and that is how you can actually move forward. So these platforms can be used in executive education in a very significant way, where you come up with combinations of in-classroom experience with supplementary stuff delivered and so on and so forth. But as far as the mainstream education is concerned, I do not see at this point of time, unless the technology delivers another blow. And you know, the whole thing changes, which I don't see coming at this particular point of time. So the real challenge for this comes from the environment. I mean, basically, which direction the regulation will go, we don't know. Now, all of a sudden, having licensed out the private sector to deliver good quality education, if the attempt to regulate them and the regulation is tightened, and so various types of freedom are taken away, particularly the freedom of pricing, then that is a huge threat. And the recent things that AICT had done in 2010 and subsequently are in that nature. The other important thing is that at this point there is no clarity about the role of the foreign institutions in this country. The foreign university bill is not really seeing the light of the day. But if the foreign universities are allowed to enter this country on their terms and conditions, and like it used to happen in the corporate sector 30 years ago, where there was no level playing field, then that is another threat which exists. Now, so this minimum thing which the corporate sector was saying at that time, if you recall the debates 20 years back, create a level playing field. Just to encourage foreign investment, you give a red carpet and you treat the domestic players differently. That should not happen.
Sure.
Now, foreign universities have values which the premier institutions in this country would share. And if the same level playing field that you are going to give out to the foreign universities is created for the private institutions in this country, then I think it's a very healthy competition, and it's a challenge that we should take head on. We would need leaders to do that, but that would be a very interesting scenario.
So the other thing that I'm picking up from everybody is that there is change happening at many levels and on many fronts. The nature of the business is changing, the nature of competition is changing, the environment is changing, policies are changing or will change, the customer is changing. So the leader is really a change manager all the time. I mean, you are on a continuous treadmill managing change at various levels and in various fronts. One of the other areas which you briefly touched upon is the talent pool, and you mentioned about having employees at Spencer's who come from a smaller catchment area because of various reasons. The quality of people that we recruit today in each of our businesses, and the businesses are very different, would have also undergone a transformation. And when you look at, let's say, people in Spencer's, and you look at, let's say, people in CSC, and you look at people in Philips Cavendish, they're of very different kinds. And you will have very different kinds within the same organization as well. But it's also true that as we recruit more and more youngsters, you're unlikely to find somebody who's going to stay with you for 20 years or 30 years and go from appointment letter to retirement letter in the same organization. So Kaushik, how do you see that, and how would you deal with that?
I think this is I would like to talk about a little bit larger issue here. This organization change which you talked about, the business evolution as you say, it is also linked to economic evolution of a country or a region in which that organization is operating out of. If you go back say 3-4 decades, if you look at say 1980, and that was the time when, that was the first time when the global economy actually touched double-digit figure, which was say about $11 trillion, if I remember the figure correctly. So from 1980 to 2000, we have seen the size of the economy grew from 11 trillion to about 32 or 33 trillion US dollar. And during this period, we have observed that primarily three, one is USA, Japan and EU. These were the primary drivers of this economic growth. And what happened because of that? We saw an emergence of affluent middle class in these countries, in these regions. Huge emergence of affluent middle class. And since this economy was doing so well and it was driven by these three large parts of the world, the aspiration level of these people, the youngster or the other employees at different age group, was quite different. And then comes the second part where we are in actually as a country. From the year 2000 until date, it has come up from $33 trillion to today possibly about $76 trillion. And this is driven by primarily BRIC countries. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and also South Africa is added to that. And US continued to grow anyway, parallelly. Now, what has happened to India because of this change, because of this economic change? We have seen a middle class growth, huge amount of growth of middle class section, affluent middle class section today. And it is about 20% of our current population, about 250 million people are today in this band, in this particular band. And the aspiration level of this particular band is extremely high. As you rightly pointed out, that will they be retiring from one company after taking appointment letter? Chances are very, very bleak. And consequent to this change in the organization evolution, there is also a change in the leadership style. Earlier days, it used to be more of, as I said a little while back, directive leadership, where you give direction and you expect people to follow. Then it moved to participative, where you kind of guide your team members to ensure that there is a conclusion on any decision. And possibly going forward, we'll see more of kind of facilitative leadership, where you actually build your team, build your leaders across the organization who are running the organization on autopilot mode. So culturally, the leaders also have to change themselves from directive to participative to facilitative leadership, in line with the change of the organization, which is happening because of the economic evolution of the region or the country. And it comes with a lot of other things. It can be as simple thing as, the hygiene in the office or the work environment, or the fun part in the work, or a challenging role. Today, professionals also want challenging role, not only a good compensation, they also want challenging role. They want accountability, full authority. So these are the areas to be looked at as we move from directive leadership to participative to facilitative leadership. And every organization's requirements are different. What is good for Spencer may not be suitable for PCBL. But ballpark, there is a baseline where some of these things are common across. And as a country, as India, I think as we grow further economically, we'll have this challenge more and more acute going forward. We'll face this challenge more and more.
What is the challenge in CSC when it comes to people and just...
Sure. Kaushik has touched upon a very important point of attrition. We would like to start with that. Say, in CSC, the attrition rate is around 2%, which is way below the industry average. Number one. Number two, somewhere I have read recently that this decade would be all those big companies will be waging war against each other for acquisition and retention of talent, top 1% talent. With that in mind, CSC has got a comprehensive talent development program. First of all, we have a philosophy that we like to grow people from within, so that our core is preserved. That is one. And there is a procedure to identify talent. Once this identification is done, their development and subsequent succession plan, so that there is a continuity. That is one. And it is also true that we are evolving as a learning organization. We have to learn, we have to adapt to new technologies, new mindset, new practices. So the learning part is also giving a lot of emphasis. Say, as for example, one is a technical skill. So far the technical skill is concerned, we are regularly in touch with IIT Kharagpur and B College in Jadavpur for imparting training to our officers, and not only of our officers, also to our supervisors. And managerial skill development we are also doing in consultation with IIM-Kolkata. So it is a regular process for us. And in-house, the hands-on training, it is a regular practice, and our training focus is not only limited to our officers. See, I can cite an example for our, say, cable jointers. We have set up an R&D lab here. So whenever a joint fails, we do that post-mortem and identify who has done this joint, and then give them hands-on training at site. Similarly, for officers, when we identify potential managers, we also put them in a cross-functional team so that they can move out of their silos, their horizon is broadened, and also they are given some real-time problem, and they are, each of this group is assigned to one top leader, say in the rank of director. So this is the kind of engagement we are having here. But only thing for looking at the young profile, I would say that younger generation will feel secure that in CSC their personal excellence, their personal drive, their creativity is going to be the ceiling how far and how fast they will grow in the company.
But if I was a young engineer, manager, looking at CSC as a career option, and with an attrition rate of as low as 2%, is there room for youngsters to come in at all first? And if they come in to grow, to give a freshness, or is there just no place? Because there are some organizations that would say that 2% attrition is not such a good thing. We should have a higher rate of attrition to bring in fresh talent periodically.
First of all, yes, we are bringing in fresh talent where it is required, say to supplement our knowledge base, to hone up new skill. And if you look at our young generation, I have earlier also told that some of them have a feeling of being left under the pile. So for that we are thoroughly overhauling our existing organization structure. We are moving towards cross-functional team-based setup, and the leadership process is such that the leadership is given at the center of each cell, and so that the true empowerment comes. We are giving them challenging assignment. Even today, when we are taking a review of Bojboj genetic station, the performance review, one of our youngster, he came up with a very challenging assignment. Initially, there was a lot of hesitation, but today we have all observed the kind of passion and confidence in his mind. To me, there lies the challenge. As a leadership team, we need to have that energy to energize our youngster, and there lies the fun. Fun means to me being engaged with body, mind and soul to the activity rather than the celebration afterwards. And I can notice the fun part in my young generation, and there lies my confidence.
Mohit, at Spencer's, is attrition a challenge? Number one. Number two, given the fact that you're in the retail business and there's a large gap between the customer who walks in and the person who's serving that customer, how do you actually keep training and reskilling people if there is a high rate of attrition?
When I was hearing 2%, I said, yeah, we also have 2%, except that it's on a fortnightly basis. Yeah. So yes, on the front end, you're absolutely right.
To say it is monthly. I did not realize it is fortnightly.
And I'm being polite about fortnight. No, before I get into that, I just wanted to put a comment onto what you said, about change. And, change for organizations, I think it's always been happening and it's contextual. But I think if you look at the pace of change today, I think there are two things which for me personally stand out, and I think there's learning for me, as a business leader and from my senior team, which is that today any change is possible at any pace, and I think that pace is getting shorter and shorter. And therefore, we have to shape organizations to be able to take shock at a magnitude which has never happened before in history. For somebody in the petroleum industry 12 months back and today, he'll get this point very, very clearly. And the Swiss franc in the last 2 weeks, what's happened, all your European bankers are getting shocks. I think these cycles are going to be more dramatic, whether they are out of natural events or policy events. And therefore, it's incumbent upon us to make our organization stronger to take shocks. It's not only commodity companies anymore. Anything which faces a consumer also has to do that. And if you can predict it and stay ahead of the curve, I think you're building a great organization. If you can shape it, okay, then you're truly a great organization. I think on talent, our challenge is not only the store level, it's even outside the store and corporate functions. I think what we see is not very different from a lot of other organizations. We regularly go to campuses to get graduates to work with us. Till 3-4 years back, we used to have 6 months induction and training program. It's almost laughable today. I mean, if you go to campus and say, 6 months ke liye aap learn karo, they'll say, all right, I'm leaving this room right now. So people are, and to credit to the industry, are ready to take on jobs almost immediately. And this includes people with little or no work experience.
Yeah.
Because the education, it makes them so aware today, at least, and that curve is steeper and steeper, people are almost ready to do the job. And they expect that. And if you don't give it to them, they won't join you. He talked about participative decision making. That's not an option anymore. That's the only way to work. Directive or any other such kind of, with talent today, it just does not work. Yeah. And I would even go out on a limb and say participative ownership is the next stage. The companies who will truly be on top will probably be there. On the store level where we have the challenges, I think the two broad directions we want to go in is we want to now see how we can dramatically increase productivity of the people who are there. And put it very simply, have lesser people, okay, pay them better and give them better careers. I think the problem with the industry is that it believes in numbers, and I think we want to go out of that paradigm. And we think that's the only way to do it. And it's not that talent is going to be easy to find in service industry as we go ahead.
Can I just add on what Mohit just now said, and which is very important for, I think, all businesses today in terms of ability to absorb shocks. And exactly the same thing actually happened with PCBL. A few years back, PCBL used to make loads of money, to be honest. And so what went wrong suddenly that last 2 years we were in deep red? What actually happened, the China was emerging as a major player, and somehow possibly we missed that warning signal. We did not pick up that warning signal in time, and therefore we did not prepare ourselves to counter that. So suddenly when China came as a huge, large force, we were just blown away and we got into this mess. So therefore in two ways we have now tried to work on this. One is the ability to counter them through the building of capability in manufacturing, because we are a manufacturing industry at the end of the day. And other part is very critical, which is the people capability improvement. And more or less similar things what Mr. Aniruddha Basu just now talked about, the similar kind of things we are also doing to develop people in our organization today.
So you've just given me the entry into
real example actually.
The next bit, which is that what you just said about, let's say, China and how that suddenly changed the dynamics of the game.
Scenario, yeah.
Has PCBL innovated in any way to take care of situations like this?
I will not use a word like innovation, but I will possibly say that yes, we have started focusing on number of aspects. Innovation may be a little too heavy word for us. We are may not be that innovative people, but we have started focusing on number of aspects which will be able to help us, to counter that kind of situation like China, or say today the oil price has fallen so sharply. So that we are doing, yes. We have got focus areas, clear-cut focus areas where we have to work on. customer centricity we talked about, people development we talked about product development and partnership, which is a business transformation. From transactional business with customer, we are moving towards the partnership mode. So this kind of things are the focus areas for us today. From national, we want to become the international player. We have two segments of product today. One is the kind of commoditized product, which is kind of vanilla grades, if you can call so, where you have got huge amount of competition. You have got another set of product which is high-end grade, little higher end of grade, which gives you better profitability, but it is difficult to manufacture. You need to have manufacturing capability as well as people capability to make sure that it happens that way. So these are the things we are working on now.
Dr. Dholakia, when you've dealt with students, you've also dealt with industry, because that's where the students finally need to go. And do you see recruiters or potential recruiters actually looking for qualities like change management, innovation in youngsters that they want to recruit, or is it something that they feel people will just acquire on the job as they go along?
No, I think today the recruiters are definitely looking for more industry ready, job ready people. As was being pointed out, the 6 months of orientation and induction programs are all done away with, and therefore you want the guy who would start performing from the next month. And that is where I think that is the primary focus. And of course, these organizations in the recruitment processes are also designing methods of assessing the creativity coefficient, or what kind of contributions these people are capable of making. So that is the reason why you have this big contrast, that you have large number of institutions which are not able to place even 20% of their students, and you have institutions where even if they double their capacity, the demand is not going to be a problem. So that is but the associated challenge is therefore the business schools staying ahead of the curve, as he has been trying to say, to figure out as to what is it that the industry needs and how those needs can be brought into the classroom curriculum.
Sure.
And therefore the need for industry connect today is much greater than it was ever before, because the scenario for industry is changing by the year. And what was true 5 years back is not true today, and what is true today is not going to be true 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah.
So unless you keep introducing new courses, upgrade curriculum, continuously train your faculty, and remain in touch with the contextual reality of the industry, you have the sort of challenge that you may not remain relevant. And I think that is the challenge which every business school is facing, and IIM Ahmedabad is no exception.
Okay, I'm going to start wrapping this up only in the interest of time, because we could have carried on for another half an hour at least, I think, comfortably. And Mohit, coming back to you, and I'm actually going to take us back to where we started, which is that what is the legacy that you would like to leave behind to your successor?
So, from a perspective of a business, I think I'd be very happy if the legacy I leave behind is an organization which is ahead of its curve on everything it does. So it's a leader in thought leadership. It need not be the largest organization. I don't think that's a legacy which personally I chase or I ask the organization to chase, but it sets the trends. It sets what needs to be done in the industry and the paradigms we operate in. And by doing that, it has the happiest set of customers and employees.
Kaushik?
Interesting question. Possibly, I would love to leave the organization behind as excellence in every area, whatever you do, and do things different, whether it is innovation you call it or something, but excellence in every area. Work together as one team, be transparent in your communication, but also be guided by set of value systems, the right set of value systems. So that kind of organization I would like to really leave behind.
Dr. Dholakia?
Well, I think I would like to leave behind an organization where the faculty feel accountable to students, and the faculty not only believe that their job is knowledge dissemination, but they also believe that it is knowledge creation, and therefore they focus on being thought leaders. And I would like to leave behind a top management team within the organization that would continuously assess the environment so that the required changes in the curriculum and the organizational systems and processes could be made, so that the organization is in a position to face the challenge of changing environment far more easily than what was the situation when I took over.
Correct. Baba?
See, I would like to leave a lasting legacy of decent leadership. To me, the CSC is like an institution. Here, the individual leader doesn't matter. CSC has evolved as an institution and will continue to thrive based on multiple generations of leadership. Currently, we are all chasing a dream of transforming CSC, where people will be highly engaged. It will be a value-based organization. It will be more high-spirited, agile, and that is the company we like to see in future.
Okay. Okay, I'm done with my set of questions. Now, this is your time to grill these gentlemen. Lovely. We have a start. If you could introduce yourself and say who the question is for.
Yeah, my question is directed to Mohit. I am Debashish Roy, Vice President IT of CSC. Mohit, we are all aware that digital technology is going to play a major role and is going to be a key differentiator in the years ahead, particularly in competitive sectors such as yours. So my question is, do you have a digital strategy and roadmap in place? If yes, if you could elaborate.
Well, unfortunately, strategy can't be spelled out on this stage, okay? Because at this point of time, we don't want to reveal it outside. But having said that, I'll give you the broad pillars of the strategy. I think the principal thing we are looking at is how can we make customers who are already coming into our stores buy more frequently from us. That's the problem we are solving for, or that's the opportunity that we are solving for. We know that our shoppers are very loyal. For the information of people here, 81% of our shoppers have been shopping from our stores for more than 1 year. That's a wonderful thing to have. You know, not many businesses have such loyal shoppers. Unfortunately, they don't come to us enough. So our strategy tries to address that. That when they don't come to us, and they don't come to us for 70% of their grocery needs, by the way, how can we go to them? And how can we make it more convenient? And the way we will do it is, basis our physical network strength, we will do city-based rollouts. If I were to look at the crystal ball, next quarter we should have our first rollout. That's about how far away we are.
Okay, I have 4 anonymous questions on little chits of paper. And actually one of them was even before yours, but doesn't matter. So I guess these people don't want to, or they're shy to identify themselves, but I'll read out the question, and if the person still wants to identify himself or herself, I promise you right now I'll give you a little gift. So there's a question addressed to anyone, but I'll take the liberty of redirecting this to Kaushik. Who are your most important stakeholders? Investors, customers, or employees? And if does the person want to identify himself or herself, there is a prize going. No? Going, gone. It's from the webcast.
It's from the webcast, right?
Okay, so there's a virtual prize that will come your way at some point in time. Kaushik, sorry.
To my mind, all 3 are important and extremely critical for business and growth of business and to excel. But if I have to prioritize, possibly I'll put the employees first.
Okay. A second question, and I'm trying to figure out who to direct this to. Okay, Dr. Dholakia, all yours. what leadership qualities are required for implementing culture change within an organization? It's a very broad question, but
the first quality that is required is to be aware about the significance of the cross-cultural aspects of an organization. And the other thing is a mindset that treats cultural dimensions and characteristics on par. That means, non-discriminatory attitude that is there, and then allow the organization to adapt itself to this. Therefore, facilitate whoever wants to champion this in their own way, and this is not something which can be done in terms of documented set of practices. One can always adopt the best practices for organizations which excel in cross-cultural linkages, but I think at the end of the day, it is the organization's ability to address itself which matters the most.
this one is straight for you. Is CSE participating in the Swachh Bharat movement through municipal solid waste projects?
It is a relevant question, I would say. In fact, last week or week before last, I've forgotten the date, that West Bengal government has organized that Global Bengal's Business Summit, and there one German, that team, they had come who have that expertise to work on that area, and they have engaged with Howrah Municipality Corporation to set up that project, which is worth of say around 3,500 crores, and they have come up with a proposal that whether CSC could buy the electricity from them. So it is a very nascent stage, so we will work on it.
Okay, there's another question, and I don't know who to direct this to, so whoever volunteers. What steps are being taken by each of our sectors to contribute to Innovative India? Now,
Innovative?
Innovative India. So it's back to innovation, but
Can I take this? Say, many a time when you talk about innovation, it is encrusted with a myth that innovation means it should be essentially product innovation. But when innovation becomes a way of our business, then the true impact of innovation comes. The way we perceive that lemon squeezing and innovating, these two things should do parallel. Because in the business situation, from my experience, I have seen that innovation always is taking place. So it is more important to nurture a culture, but this is harnessed. And from our perspective, one of our leaders recently has suggested that let us create an innovation cell. So think of a utilities point of view. We are going one step ahead to create an innovation structure. 2 to 3 simple examples. Say, across the country, the industry benchmark is whenever an applicant applies for a new connection, it takes around 30 days. Here we are giving it in 3 days. Now we are planning to give it in 24 hours. That calls for innovation.
sure.
And here our HR department in organizing innovation fair, where all departments are participating, coming up with different projects. So we are building it up. So innovation has to be a way of life. I can see here one of my senior colleagues who had way back in '92 had innovated that simple thing, live line detector. Because live line detector is something, those who work on the live line, it gives a it's a tester kind of a thing, and it has saved lives of so many people, including mine.
Sure.
So this is innovation. So as a senior team, we need to highlight that, because a lot of things are happening under the pile.
Sure.
So that visibility should be there.
Just to add to the point Mr. Basu made, see, this kind of innovations, what he talked about just now, ultimately helps you in the growth of the organization and in the process growth of the country. and then that is what I guess is meant in this question. So even for companies like us who are hardcore manufacturing companies, similar kind of lot of innovative ideas are there, if you call it innovative or game changer ideas you can call it, and young people and different stages of people are also involved in that. Now, as long as this drives our business, the business growth, profitable business growth, and within India and outside India we grow and help the economy of the country. So to my mind, that is how we help the journey of India in the global market, in the global scenario. So I look at it that way.
Do we have any other questions from this audience? Because we've had one question from the audience so far. Yeah.
Sunil has got.
I'd just like to expand upon the innovation theme just a little bit more, taking off from your question, what you said, Aniruddha. I'd like to ask both of you this. They say innovation is a culture. It's not something which just comes, it's something which has to be brought in. I mean, if a company's name which comes immediately to mind for innovation, it's Google. And they've institutionalized innovation, or 3M. They've institutionalized it in such a way that everyone at the lowest level also is always thinking what can they do to get something new out which would benefit the company, right? Now, what I would like to ask both of you, is there something of that kind which is happening, which you're planning to happen, or is it something which is not required because of the businesses you are in?
No, Sunil, one of the things which has always been personally satisfying for me to work in this group is how open it is to innovation. Ever since I've joined Spencer's last 7.5 years, my ability to try new things and innovate, limited to the nature of the industry we are in, has been remarkable compared to all other organizations I've worked for. And I think that's a culture thing which comes from the group office. I've had many conversations, even with my senior team. I remember Kuldeep, who's my merchandising head, 3 weeks back, he was asking me for investment approval. These are normal conversations which you have. He's not in the room here today, so he's not here to corroborate my story, but I promise you it happened. So he said, boss, this is one of those conversations where I'm not going to give you a rationale, and I urge you not to ask me, okay, because I want to just try it out. And, in retail, there are a lot of things, there are no set precedents. We have to simply sometimes try it out. As long as it's on a bedrock of your experience and what you see or what others don't see, it's fine. And, I'm happy to support him on that. So it's one of those investment proposals where there is no backup, rationale, numbers, none of that stuff. Let's just do it and see what happens. It can almost sound cavalier, but it isn't. I think when you do that once in a while, the message it sends out is very, very different. As long as you don't keep doing it again and again, then it's stupid. You're not learning. And the way I look at it personally is the worst downside is that you will go out of it maybe a couple of lakhs poorer, but richer by the experience. And I know my senior team shares that.
Sunil, I think the point you made is extremely correct, and I'm in absolute agreement with you, though whether it is a culture or it is innovation portal you create and innovation happens automatically. I fully agree that it is a culture we actually need to build over a period of time, and therefore it is important that work environment should be such that people are encouraged to come out with different ideas. Innovation does not necessarily mean you have to talk about very big thing all the time. There can be a small thing even which can be called an innovation. Doing things differently. I'll rather use the word doing things differently rather than using the heavy word like innovation. And I think we as leaders, it is our responsibility to ensure that we create that culture, allow that elbow room to our team members that yes, please go ahead and do it, and if you fail, it doesn't matter, I'm standing by it. I'll back you up. There's a situation like, say, there are 10 different areas you need to look at and make changes possibly, and a person decides I will not do anything because I am scared if I do something and something goes wrong, my job is at stake, because that is the perception we have created as a leader. But the same person, if he takes call on 8 cases and even 2 are successful out of that, so what is your score? 2 on 10 vis-a-vis 0 on 10. So which one to support? Exactly, I think that is the point what Mohit also tried to say. So responsibility of innovative culture actually lies, building an innovative culture actually lies on the leaders. Are you creating that fearless atmosphere to ensure your people are coming out with different thoughts? Maybe a small difference, but please encourage that. It may not give you a huge financial benefit all the time. It can be a different process, it can be a different system, some different idea, it is maybe more logistics matter, and always don't look for money for everything. Do not please look for money for everything. It may be a small change in your process which is helping you. So to my mind, I fully agree that innovation is a culture, it is not just an innovation portal.
Sunil, here I'd like to add one point, that to respond to your suggestion that innovation should be institutionalized, I think the process should start with the recruitment itself. It would be interesting to note that in CSC, our customer relation department, which is part of distribution and full of engineers, we have started recruiting officers with those who have done masters in literature, comparative literature, English, and they are currently pursuing all customer relation CRM project. We did it purposely so that there is a synergy, so lateral thought can come in. So very baby step, but this could have a far-reaching impact in the future.
If I have to just add, I think I personally believe that if you want to think about innovation as a culture, as a system in an organization, and look at it in the context of leadership, then I personally believe that to encourage innovation, you require a leader who does not suffer from the fear of failure. Now, only when he or she does not have inhibitions about failure, can you set in motion decision making processes that could encourage innovation.
Yeah.
All right, I think with that we'll wrap it up, and there are some questions at the back though. I can see some hands now going
let's
up.
take.
So quickly, yeah.
My question is for Mr. Mohit Kampani. Looking at the retail segment, I believe that out of the 4 P's of marketing mix, product placement or distribution is one of the most important ones. You may agree or disagree. So I would like to know your perspective on this, as well as talking about Spencer's. Can you give us 2 examples of how Spencer's has dealt with this challenge of availability and distribution?
So my most important P is definitely people. This is a people and community business. I think the other stuff over a period of time we'll keep getting better at. But if you don't have good people to run the business, it's a complete non-starter. As far as product availability is concerned, which is, I guess you mean on-shelf availability, we progressed significantly over the last couple of years. We have very sophisticated algorithms, we have replenishment teams, etc. Those are not challenges of the business anymore. Okay, over the last couple of years, I have seen what were base level challenges. Can we get a product on the shelf every time a customer comes in, for instance, is no longer a competitive edge. I think the business has moved ahead, and our challenges are now how to reach them in more locations, how to build better relationships, okay, how to get our talent to learn new skills. So the fundamental P's of the business are now taken for granted. I think the business has now moved beyond that, and we've got to be ahead of the curve on those.
Okay, and with that, let's wrap this up, because otherwise we'll continue forever. I think one of the takeouts that I'm going to put back into the audience, and because I always play with words, is one of my passions is lead is an anagram of deal. So when you're leading, you're always dealing with something or the other. So thank you very much, and I know there are questions, but the gentlemen are available even after this, so you can always meet them and get your questions answered. Thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in the Q&A session. We thank our panelists, Mr. Aniruddha Basu, Professor Bakul Dholakia, Mr. Kaushik Roy, Mr. Mohit Kampani, and our moderator, Mr. Mohit Hira, for the enlightening and thought-provoking discussion. I'm sure we all will have our learnings and takeaways from this session, which we will cherish. Our heartfelt gratitude goes out to all our 5 leaders today for taking out time from their busy schedules and for making this LeaderSpeak session so interesting and insightful. We thank Mr. Sanjeev Goenka for the incredible encouragement and freedom that he gives all of us to do new things and to take risks. We thank Dr. Arindam Banik, Dr. Tirthankar Nag, Anindita Chatterjee, Vivek Kejriwal, and everyone at IMI-Kolkata for extending so much of help and cooperation, without which this session would have been impossible. We thank all our volunteers, Ruchi, Sangeeta, Onkita, Nandita, Harish, Hemant, Neel, Pankaj, Deepak, and Dilip for their help and support. We thank Drono Acharya and his team for the lights, camera, and the live webinar. We thank Avidas of Indus Glips for helping us with the audio-visual presentations. We thank our branding partners, Adva Communic and Encore Events. And most importantly, we thank all our audience who have come to IMI-Kolkata today or joined us via the webcast. We would now like to present small tokens of appreciation to the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for high tea at the pre-function area outside the auditorium. Have a great evening. Thank you.